During the NAIC, I hosted a bunch of friends to come together and play some Pokemon. I thought this would be a great chance to get some practice in for Yokohama whilst also watching a fantastic live stream across the weekend, and we thought what better way to challenge ourselves and have a bit of fun was going to be having a double elimination bracket running as the tournament was going on. So we pitted together what we thought were the 7 best decks at the time, as well as throwing in United Wings, which have been doing well on day 1 of the NAIC stream, to fight it out against each other for a mystery prize. Now, I will say that this was a party atmosphere. There probably are going to be some mistakes on some of these streams. We were also, watching the stream along, having a good time, and probably not putting our all into some of these games. So if there are going to be mistakes, I'm going to try and highlight them in commentary, but it's just going to be one of those things. This isn't necessarily the highest standard of play. It's just something we did for fun over the weekend. Cube Koga is always in the link in the description below, where I will be trying to have even more up-to-date lists than the ones possibly even played in these tournaments. So that's always the best place to check out our lists. Now let's get into some games. So we are getting into the losers bracket here. We have Rab on the left playing Mew, and we have Jono on the right playing Chien-Pao Baxcalibur. Should be an interesting matchup, actually. Rab has Hand Disruption and possibly even Path at his disposal to try and slow down the Chien-Pao, but Chien-Pao has the obvious uptrade potential of a 2 prize EX going into a VMAX Pokemon, so it should be a pretty interesting game, I think. I think it was a mulligan there from Rab. As we do get into things, looks like we're getting ready to rumble. Unfortunately, another mull with a ton of ball search in there as well. Jono definitely happy to see some extra cards here. Going to be pretty handy for him. With Champao being quite a resource-intensive deck, and that is a terrible opener for Rab. That is a really... Oh, it's 3 mulligans as well. That is a really poor start, and the double turbo doesn't help him at all. Oh, this is looking rough. Oh, man. And Jono's hand is obviously with mulligans now is excellent. Is able to VIP, has Irida, has Nest as well. So he should be able to go full board and just really set up nicely here. And Rab is in top deck mode because otherwise his tournament is just done. As Jono is going to also Nest Ball out Greninja. Have to apologise for a few proxies here, but having 8 decks built at once is quite difficult. Definitely a strain on my resources. We see the Greninja into another VIP pass, so Jono is completely set up pre-supporter here, which is fantastic. He's able to get the backup Frigibacks as well as the Palkia V. So has pretty much everything they could ask for. I think with no pressure coming from Rab possibly as well, you can even retreat into the Champao and get a free Shivery Chill in. Actually, he's going to play a little safer and go for the attach pass onto the Palk. Doesn't play any supporter, just holds them all for next turn. Because I think he's basically holding onto a monster. Rab draws, has nothing, and that is probably going to be really bad news. As we see the Irida now from Jono, who can go Candy Backs. So there should be a very easy route to victory here for Jono to just knock out this Genesect. We see Switch already in the hand. We see the Shivery Chill and the turn attachment, and that's enough, right? That will be 240. Yeah, so can Super Cold, Shivery Chill, and just double attach, and that'll be the game. So unfortunately, Mew is bowing out this early stage. 1 brick and 1 loss to United Wings, and suddenly Rab is out of the tournament, and he was many draws away from being safe. A tale of 2 different starts there. Jono with pretty much everything he could ask for, and Mew with literally nothing. You've got to feel bad for Rab in that instance. But it does mean that we're also going to move on to our other side of the losers bracket now, where we have Connor playing that Arceus Giratina, and we are up against Ben, who is playing the Single Strike Lugia. Looks like Connor was able to go first, and is able to double Nest Ball here, which is exceptional. I don't think there's any energy in Connor's opening hand, which is a little bit rough, but at least he will be able to develop a couple arc here, possibly. I believe he is playing Spiritomb as well. That could also be a consideration card, but he's going for the Bidoof. This actually may have been before we were putting the Spiritombs in, or at least Connor. So I think Connor's playing some Box of Disasters in this list, so it's possibly taking a little bit more for Guardy than for than Lugia and Mew. Does have the early path though, and is going for the Panic Nest stat to try and hit an energy card, and passes. So it had no supporter in hand, so I don't feel like this is a horrible choice. The only upside of holding your 2-card hand is that if you draw Ultra Balls, you could then get straight into Barrel and be good. But I do like putting the proactive path down. Ben has the Ton attachment of double turbo into the raw Burnett without the need for Luminion, so that's really nice. So it's still getting underway in that regard, and you can see Spider the Pumpkaboo not prized, and has some ball search to possibly help him get there as well. We see Nest Ball from Ben. Has to be aware that he's going to have other things. Like, he wants this last bench space to be Archeops, Pump, but is happy enough getting this Urshifu down, which is definitely a threatening card to deal with. It's just going to be a Read the Wind from Ben. It gets into some more ball search, so he's looking good for next turn. Connor instantly draws, but then Squovitz into the Iono. You love to see it. Is able to get into this game off of a fortuitous Nest Dash. Oh, is playing the Spiritomb as well, so that possibly might make things more difficult for Ben, although he's already got some Archeops in the bin. Looks like it's going to be an attachment to the Arc and just a pass here. Ben top decks the V-Star, I think. Was able to get that into the mix. And a Capturing Aroma Tails is exactly what he needs. He can now pump away the path and summon out the chops. And now he can start rolling with some prizes here. Gonna see the Gift Energy coming onto the active as well as the V-Guard, so it's a really stacked Lugia at this stage. And the second Primal Turbo is going to be for the Urshifu, getting double single strike energy developed, so really threatening now. The early sort of gambits that Arc likes to do is that path and see how it slows down the Lugia players, but in this instance Ben hasn't been slowed down much at all and is looking in a really good spot, can even research away some goods for a fresh hand here. Goes straight into the VMAX as well, and that is one chunky Pokemon to get through for Arc players. That is definitely a card that can take 4 prize cards on its own. So Connor is able to attach Double Turbo and then research. Did he hit the V-Star here? No. Oh, that's rough. No Ball Search, no V-Star. That's really ugly. So it looks like just has the Trinity Charge rather than Nova. That's a big deal as well. It's not easy for Connor to knock out this Lugia at all because there's a Box of Disaster on the Giratina rather than a belt. And he's hoping that his Box of Disaster procs onto either Lugia or the Urshifu to actually have a chance here of pushing the Lugia into range. It's going to be a Primal Turbo, Gift Energying the benched Lugia. All seems pretty okay for Ben, who's getting into good shape here. Just having a quick read with the Box of Disaster. Can't blame him. It's not the most common card. It was definitely seen over that weekend at NAIC, though. Ben figuring out if he wants to thin anything else from this hand. Is able to Aroma, hits the tails, so can grab a basic. He's going to grab Fish to hand. Possibly just a card he doesn't want to draw into if he's going to go for any hand refresh here. Yeah, eyes up the Iono and is going to give them both a fresh hand. Ben drawing 5, Connor getting 6. And is Ben just going to retreat into Urshi and take the KO here? Or is he a little bit worried about the Box of Disaster? No, it's just going to get some damage on thanks to the V-Guard on Connor's side and the Double Turbo. There's enough reduction here. And I think, honestly, because he wasn't hit last turn, he's happy just taking the slower route through the box and getting around it that way. Because Connor may still just be forced to go for a Trinity Nova this turn and sort of slow ride through the Lugia, and that's really good for Ben, right? Connor just a little bit behind on tempo right now. Can throw Iono into the mix. I imagine he just wants to draw into Arc V-Star. That's kind of what he's digging for here. Does find Ultra Ball, can get rid of... Sorry, Tina V-Star, I should say. Actually just goes for another Tina V, just to spread his threats a little bit more with basic energy. So he must have enough basic energy remaining in the deck for that to be the right choice. No, okay, changes up his mind, does get the V-Star in the end. Trying to at least force, if Ben wants to go through the Tina with Urshifu, he at least has to remove all his energy in one go if he's going to make that play. Connor is debating the retreat here to go into the healthy Arc, I would imagine. Yeah. Is going to try and two-shot the Lugia this way and force Ben to have more Gust. Definitely makes sense. This shouldn't be 180. Yeah, the own V-Guard. Yeah, they figure it out. V-Guards and double turbos on pretty much all the Pokemon in play right now. Ben's going to keep on chugging with his Archeops. They Ionoed the V-Guard to the bottom, so able to pull that out with Primal Turbo. So it's pretty well set up with a ton of attackers now. And it's really just that cat and mouse of when does he want Urshifu in the mix. It can come in and just use Beatdown quite happily, and yeah, now seems to be the time. The Jet energy allows Ben to preserve even more energy around this board. And a Beatdown seems pretty good to me. The buffs of the single strike energies means he can just have this 330 hit point monster in the active position. And Connor's not going to have an easy time of getting around this. The Urshifu basically is guaranteed to take 4 prize cards for the price of 3 here. Connor can hit it for a good chunk and hope that Box does some help here, finishes off the Ursh. But it's not a great... like, what follow-ups does he have from there? Yeah, I think Connor's just done. I think he's noticing that Urshifu is getting too much value on its own, so just scoops it up there. So it looks like Arctina is bowing out of this one, and Lugia progresses through the loser's bracket and will have the chance to fight another day. So, yeah, 2 loser's bracket games there. I will try and lump these games together if we ever get some donks or some really quick games, so that we're keeping all of these videos the similar sort of length. So yeah, stick around to see more action from our little NAIC tournament.